every day, my office receives emails and calls, inboxes from adult men that are 21 years old or older, even up into their 60s, that want to do steroids. They've done their research, they respect me, and they want to discuss doing steroids safely. This is an incredible piece, what's going on. Then we get emails like this. And I need to share this with the world, and I need to communicate from my perspective. And it's an unbiased perspective. However, I'm a physician and I'm a dad of a 16-year-old son that I absolutely do not want on steroids ever, certainly as he's a developing teenager. However, this is an email from a father, and I want to read it to you guys. I want to share it. I've gone to great length to make sure that this email is not going to identify who the father is in America. He's just a father of a 16-year-old son. And I don't want to shame him. My intention of this communication in video is to ask my audience, mainly men that have children, teenagers, that may or may not be on steroids or testosterone. What do you think about this? Is this something that is becoming the norm? And what do we do about this? And shame is not going to work, so we're not here to shame. Let me read the email to you, to everyone. This came into my office in the last week or so. I want to hire Dr. O'Connor because of his expertise to advise me on a safe dose of performance-enhancing drugs for my 16-year-old son before he starts taking unsafe drugs on his own. He has never taken any performance-enhancing drugs to date. He is very healthy. Thank you for your time. That's all we received. Now, we receive hundreds and thousands of emails during the year from men that ask similar questions about themselves. Now, Nurse Wendy responded with the following that you could see here. There is no safe way for a young developing boy to use PEDs without ruining his life. We have been dealing with parents trying to help their sons come off these drugs, dealing with erectile dysfunction, dealing with suicides, and we have men now in their 20s who are sterile now. They are on TRT therapy for life. Now that's Nurse Wendy. You know, she's a woman and she's tough, but she runs the business here with me, and she sees it from a nursing perspective. She sees it from a woman's perspective, and I could tell you that we deal with parents and teenagers all the time that are on PEDs that have other comorbid issues with depression. In the last month, we had 2 men hospitalized for suicide ideation and suicidal attempts. Now, this is the response from the dad. I know numerous people, including myself, that use them in a limited capacity and still many years later are totally fine. I'm sure that the vast majority of people that end up having trouble were using in excess. I just know that my son's desire to increase his strength is very strong, and he will be very tempted to use drugs that his peers are taking. Please reconsider. Thank you for your time. So that's the kind of stuff that I see, and I want to bring to your attention without shaming anyone or bringing identification to who this is, because we get this stuff more and more. What do you guys think about this? Specifically, men that have young children that are maybe less than teenagers, or men that have children that are teenagers, or men that are in their 20s and they may be on steroids. You may be on steroids. And this, let me tell you some quick scenarios. So a man came to me, one man in particular, over 10 years ago, who's still a patient, and he came to me in his late 20s. His dad put him on steroids as a teenager just to be an athlete, on and off testosterone esters and some other drugs. And the man went through that period of being a teenager, and he did well. He was fine. He didn't become a professional athlete. And then years later, in his early 20s, he came off, obviously, in his young, late teenager life. He seemed to recover. And then subsequent in his late 20s, he had hypogonadism. And he had no other medical issues. And we rechecked him multiple times. He's been to endocrinology doctors, primary care doctors, and finally came to me about 10 years ago. This is when I became the Anabolic Doc from a harm reduction perspective, and realized that anabolic steroid-induced hypogonadism is out there much more than we think, and it's devastating. So this man had low T, and subsequently we treated him, and now it's 10 years later, and he's in his early 30s, and he feels fine. But he's on testosterone for life. So I think about that man, and I think of many other men that come to me that have done steroids in their teenage years, 16 to 19, and subsequently have ended up being on testosterone for the rest of their life. So that's what I like to bring to you. Non-judgmental. What do we think is going to go on? What is going to happen? What should we do about this? It's harm reduction. We have so many teenagers that are taking steroids, and apart from the high school programs and the NCAA and professional sports where they're being tested regularly, you have millions and millions of men, this is as per the data, we don't really know the number, I'm assuming it's growing all the time, that are utilizing performance-enhancing drugs of various types, including pro-hormones, testosterone boosters, SARMs, steroids, insulin, growth hormone. I hear it all. And it's affecting them. And what man doesn't want to be big and strong? But in the end of the day, when you're a teenager, your body's developing. We know that. And there will be consequences to that. Some men can walk away. Some men can't. Where's the research? Well, we don't have any. We need to do some. We never need to shame or discriminate and to wag the finger on anyone. That's for damn sure, because it's just going to work in the opposite direction. Because you tell men what to do, don't do that, they're just going to do the opposite. So we need to lead them to a position where for their own heart, they're going to understand what's wrong for them. Because when you're dating and you're in your late teenage years and you can't go on a date because in fear of intimacy and in fear that you will have performance issues with erections, that's really devastating. And worse, even worse than that, which is, I don't know what's really much worse than that when you're a teenager or in your 20s or any age. That's what I like to bring to you. Thank you so much for listening to this full communication, and I'd like to see a lot of comments. No hateful comments, no discrimination, just thoughts and experiences of maybe what's happened to you and your son. How do you keep your son off steroids, or what do you do as an alternative to give your son alternatives of doing steroids to stay really strong and really healthy and to get through this crucial period of life. Thank you so much. I really hope this helps everyone.